Get ready. The awakening that's coming won't be sweet. It will arrive wrapped in beauty, but it will carry within it a force that strips away all that is false. And before it happens, ask yourself this: what will you do when you realize that the most dangerous energy can wear the face of love? Many speak of Venus in Libra as a time of balance, tenderness, and healing, but that's only the surface. Behind the shine, something much deeper is brewing, something that doesn't seek to make you fall in love, but to reveal you. Beneath its apparent sweetness hides an energy that doesn't caress. It cuts. It doesn't aim to give you love, but to show you where you fake it. October 13th marks the peak of intensity, but the waves are already arriving. If you're sensitive to vibrations, you're already feeling it. A strange heaviness, a causeless nostalgia, an unease you can't explain. It's not anxiety, it's alignment. Awakened hearts are acting like antennas now, receiving what the rest of the world can't yet perceive. This isn't just any cosmic lesson, it's a spiritual selection. It all begins subtly, a name that returns, a melody that seems to speak to you, an encounter that feels like destiny. Venus in Libra enchants, seduces, promises, but that enchantment isn't a gift. It's a test. It draws you in with what you most desire to see if you're still willing to lose yourself in the fleeting. And just when you most believe in the magic, everything collapses. The signs disappear. The calls stop. What seemed like union dissolves into thin air. That's when you understand. This wasn't love. It was revelation. Venus doesn't come to give you what you want, but to show you why you keep seeking it outside yourself. What you thought was connection was a mirror, a reflection of your need to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved. And when that energy disappears, it's not because the universe has forgotten you. It's because it wants you to look at yourself without masks. The silence that follows isn't punishment, it's purification. It's the invisible fire that burns the remnants of attachment. What hurts now isn't loss, it's liberation. You're being torn away from the illusion of romantic love to meet the love that depends on no one else. Sometimes the divine doesn't show itself through hugs or signs. It shows up in absence, because only there can you see whether your faith is real or borrowed. Venus isn't abandoning you, it's confronting you, and in that confrontation the soul awakens. You're not losing love, you're reclaiming your power. At first it feels good. Calm wraps around you like a caress. Everything seems in order. You clean your space, light candles, surround yourself with soft colors. You tell yourself you're finally at peace, but little by little that peace becomes suffocating. It's a silence so perfect, it begins to choke you. Venus in Libra awakens the need for beauty, harmony, and balance. But when the soul is going through an awakening, that search becomes dangerous. What begins as serenity turns into obsession. You want everything to look flawless. Your space, your emotions, even your way of healing. But the more you try, the emptier it feels. You lose yourself between the aesthetic and the spiritual. You spend hours arranging what's already in order, consuming images of calm, chasing a perfection that slips through your fingers like water. You're not seeking peace, you're trying to cover pain with a layer of beauty. The real trap of Venus in Libra is to confuse you. It makes you believe that external calm equals inner balance, but it doesn't. Peace without truth is just disguised control. And when the energy becomes unbearable, your body knows. You feel anxiety, tension, an unexplainable discomfort. It's your soul screaming, this isn't healing, it's repression. This phase isn't about decorating your pain, but about looking at it without adornment. Beauty can soothe you, but it cannot heal you. True freedom doesn't arise from a perfect setting, but from the courage to let chaos breathe. And as you try to maintain that artificial calm, the real battle emerges. A silent war between your empathy and your ego. Venus in Libra amplifies both. It pushes you to forgive, to be understanding, to maintain diplomacy. But there's an inner voice that can no longer bear so much softness. It whispers that you've stayed silent for too long, that you've carried what wasn't yours, that your kindness has become a burden. That's the invisible war almost no one acknowledges, the conflict between your desire for peace and your need for justice. You want to remain compassionate, but a part of you is crying out for respect. You start to question, is it truly spiritual to forgive everything? Or is it just a refined way of continuing to betray yourself? Love without limits, when there is no reciprocity, turns into self-abandonment. That's the hidden lesson of this transit. Venus doesn't come to teach you to love more, but to love yourself better. To remind you that forgiveness without awareness only perpetuates imbalance. Many are feeling exhausted now, not because of the world, but because of the weight of always trying to be the good person. From the outside, it looks like peace, but inside there's fatigue. You've confused empathy with endurance. You believed that maintaining someone else's peace was an act of love, when in truth, it was a silent sacrifice. The awakening under Libra isn't looking for saints. It seeks authentic beings. It's showing you that balance doesn't come from repressing anger or denying pain, but from allowing both forces to coexist without destroying you. Forgiveness isn't always expressed in silence. Sometimes it's spoken with truth. Venus in Libra is teaching you emotional diplomacy, how to remain loving without losing your strength, how to keep your heart open without letting it be torn apart. But before reaching that mastery, you'll feel the inner pull between softness and strength, compassion and clarity. Don't be afraid. That tension is the sign that you are evolving. Now the Libra scales turn inward. It's no longer about how others see you, but how you perceive yourself. And there begins another kind of judgment, the spiritual one. It doesn't come from outside, but from your own awareness. You feel something within, observing every thought, every word, every reaction, as if your soul were taking notes. You begin to see yourself with raw honesty. You say you've let go, but you're still holding on. You speak of trust, but try to control. You proclaim peace, but seek conflict. This is the moment your higher self strips away the masks. Awakening isn't about becoming flawless. It's about becoming honest. The scales are adjusting your inner world. It's not punishment, it's accountability. It's not karma, it's consciousness. And yes, it hurts. You feel judged, exposed. But this judgment doesn't seek to destroy you. It seeks to refine you. The more aware you become, the more responsibility you feel for your energy, your words, your boundaries. Sometimes it feels like you're constantly on trial with yourself, reviewing every mistake, every repeated cycle. But even that discomfort has purpose. The paradox of Libra is this: the more you analyze yourself, the more you lose balance. Because guilt also tips the scale. True spiritual justice isn't achieved by punishing yourself, but by observing yourself with truth and compassion. The moment you stop trying to prove you're good is when you start living from your authenticity. You're no longer your own judge, you become your own witness, and from there, liberation begins. That is the justice of Venus in Libra, not the one that condemns, but the one that cleanses. Not the one that punishes, but the one that reveals. What emerges after this process isn't perfection, it's truth. And that truth, however painful, is the only path to real peace. No one says it, but awakening under Venus in Libra comes with a price that few are willing to admit: spiritual exhaustion. It's not physical or emotional fatigue. It's a weariness born in the soul, seeping into every corner of your being, making you feel empty even when everything seems calm. It's the result of keeping your soul in constant tension, trying to maintain harmony while everything inside you is screaming for change. You try to understand, to heal, to balance, to love, to forgive all at once. And even though you think you're making progress, you're actually wearing yourself down. Because Venus in Libra doesn't just drive the search for balance, it can also turn it into a prison. You become obsessed with maintaining calm, with making everything look perfect. Your relationships, your energy, your emotions, your healing process. But perfection is heavy, and carrying it every day is like wearing a golden mask over an open wound. Pretending to be balanced is the quietest way to collapse. There comes a point when even beauty exhausts you. The candlelight no longer soothes, the words of gratitude no longer fill you, and silence ceases to be a refuge. It becomes an echo. You dim inside without knowing why. There's no drama, no tears, just a kind of emptiness that covers everything. You lose interest in what once inspired you. Conversations feel flat, emotions grow distant. This is not regression, it's your soul begging for neutrality. After swimming between emotional extremes, it just wants to float. It wants to end the war. True balance doesn't mean staying calm all the time. It means learning not to fall apart in the middle of chaos. It's knowing how to rest within disorder without feeling guilt. Until you understand that, you'll keep swinging between peaks of connection and valleys of exhaustion. One day, You'll feel like you can conquer the world, and the next, you'll barely be able to get out of bed. And no, that doesn't mean you've failed. It means your body, your mind, and your soul are adjusting to a new frequency. This exhaustion isn't weakness. It's deep energetic cleansing. It's your soul shutting off all that's superficial to restart from truth. Because when the sparkle fades and motivation disappears, only one question remains. Do you still love yourself when there's nothing left to show? That's where the true awakening begins. This phase may feel endless, but it's actually the divine reset. It's the moment when you stop surviving as a character and begin existing as a soul. Venus doesn't want you flawless, it wants you real. It doesn't demand constant light, it asks for presence. And sometimes the only way to find yourself is to fall under the weight of what you were never meant to carry, just to finally realize that balance isn't about holding everything together, but letting go of what was never yours. There's an inevitable moment in every awakening under Venus in Libra, when beauty stops inspiring and starts to smell like a lie. Suddenly all that's polished, perfect faces, impeccable altars, crystal-styled photos, only love and light quotes, starts to feel hollow. It no longer resonates, it no longer heals, it drains you. Perfection begins to show its cracks. That excessive harmony turns into noise, and what once seemed divine now feels manufactured. Venus in Libra, the guardian of aesthetics and balance, places you in front of the mirror of spiritual vanity. It forces you to see how the sacred has been packaged, edited and sold as a brand. You look around and notice spirituality has become a stage set. Soft tones, forced smiles, measured words, coordinated outfits. Everything looks clean, but it lacks soul. And when your consciousness expands, you can no longer participate in the performance. You feel repelled by what you once adored. You're not rejecting beauty. You're rejecting falseness dressed in light. You begin to crave the raw, the real, the unfiltered vibration. You'd rather hear a true cry than see a rehearsed smile, face an uncomfortable silence rather than hear empty affirmations. Venus in Libra teaches you through contrast. It shows that even peace can become a performance, that harmony can be a mask as heavy as chaos. You start to see how many people heal their healing the same way they decorate their homes, showing only what's beautiful, hiding the shadows. But awakening under this energy reveals the uncomfortable truth. Healing isn't always beautiful. Sometimes it's violent, chaotic, devastating. Sometimes it's simply not meant to be seen. And when you see all that, you feel out of place. Spiritual spaces begin to feel shallow, motivational quotes sound empty, and collective smiles feel rehearsed. You're not becoming cold or arrogant, you're waking up. Your soul is rebelling against showcase spirituality, against the false glow that hides real pain. True spirituality needs no filters or shine. It doesn't aim to be beautiful, it aims to be authentic. Venus, the lover of harmony, strips you of your illusions not to destroy you, but to free you. When you stop trying to look spiritual, you start to be spiritual. And the irony is, in that moment you regain your magnetism, not because you're polished, but because you're real. Authenticity has a light that no aesthetic can imitate. This is the silent rebellion of the awakened soul, choosing truth over trend, energy over image, presence over appearance. When you reach that point, you understand that enlightenment isn't about seeming divine. It's about no longer needing to. But Venus in Libra doesn't stop there. She amplifies perception, opening your mind like a wound of clarity. You begin to see all sides of everything, every intention, every emotion, every contradiction. Your intuition expands, but along with it comes confusion. Because understanding everything can blind you. You start feeling so much that you lose yourself in what you feel. Your empathy becomes an open field. You perceive others' pain, hidden fears, unspoken emotions. And instead of feeling powerful, you feel drained. It's not weakness, it's excess. You've absorbed too much. You've mistaken compassion for availability. This is the collapse of psychic polarity. Your awareness stretches so far between extremes, seeing and feeling everything, that your center disintegrates. Empathy without boundaries becomes depletion. You try to hold everyone, but in doing so, you empty yourself. Here comes Venus's most important lesson. Not all energy deserves access to you. Seeing everything doesn't mean carrying everything. Perceiving it all doesn't mean you have to heal it all. Your empathy needs boundaries in order to become wisdom. Only then does your sensitivity sharpen. It stops being sorrow and becomes strength. The real peace Venus seeks in you doesn't come from silence or appearance, but from confrontation. This transit rips off the soul's masks and reveals everything you've been holding on to just for fear of losing harmony. When you stop pretending, something within you aligns with a brutal, serene force: truth. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it's what emerges after facing it. The shadow of Venus in Libra doesn't come to destroy your beauty, it comes to purify it. It teaches you to stop performing calm and to start living it, unfiltered. You stop chasing what's beautiful and begin to honor what's true. You stop seeking balance for appearances and begin aligning for authenticity. This is the final initiation of awakening. Understanding that harmony is not achieved by denying chaos, but by embracing it until it no longer controls you. Break the illusions. Face the imbalance. Say what you've been silencing. Only then will you know the balance Venus in Libra has always tried to teach you, the kind born of naked truth. There's a point in the awakening under Venus in Libra when everything shifts without warning. You start listening differently, not with your ears but with your soul. The words still sound the same, but their vibration no longer deceives you. You can feel when sweetness is real and when it's a tactic. You sense when someone speaks from the heart and when it's manipulation. And then the truth comes, sharp as a blade. Much of what you called love was control disguised as tenderness. Libra is the sign of harmony, courtesy, and beauty that avoids conflict. But its light also casts a shadow, complacency. That impulse to keep the peace, even if it means betraying yourself. Venus polishes the surface, softens tension, turns lies into something pleasant. But when you spiritually awaken under her influence, you can no longer tolerate what's false. Suddenly, the words that once calmed you sound hollow. Smiles feel rehearsed, conversations leave you drained, and without knowing why, your body starts to tense up around what doesn't vibrate cleanly. It's not paranoia, it's perception. It's the moment you stop hearing with your senses and start listening with your soul. What once flattered you now unsettles you. The compliments you once sought now sound empty. And then it clicks. Much of your life was built around the need for approval. You mistook validation for love, acceptance for connection, kindness for truth. Venus in Libra doesn't destroy bonds, it unmasks them. It shows which were convenient arrangements and which were rooted in soul. It teaches you that diplomacy isn't always noble. Sometimes it's fear of rejection. You start noticing that many people weren't seeking harmony, they were seeking control. That many sweet words were tools to maintain an artificial balance, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. You find yourself pulling away without explanation. Conversations feel heavy, smiles seem sharp. Compliments make you uncomfortable. Your energy detects it before your mind does. It's your vibrational field pushing away what no longer fits. Your intuition raises an inner scale and weighs every word, every look, every silence. When something doesn't weigh right, you know it instantly. You feel it like a buzz in your chest, a sacred alert that says, this is not true. This is where liberation begins. The moment you stop needing approval, manipulation loses its language. They can no longer sweet-talk you because now you recognize the intention. You no longer seek to be understood, you seek to be coherent. You're no longer interested in seeming kind, you're interested in being authentic. And with that, clarity comes the rawest realization. How many times you softened your words, tamed your voice just to avoid discomfort. How often you repressed your intuition so you wouldn't seem too much. But something inside you can no longer lie. You can't stay where truth is disguised as peace. Yes, it's a lonely process. Awareness filters out what doesn't resonate. Hollow relationships dissolve. Friendships built on convenience fade, not with drama, just with silence. What once felt like company now feels like noise. But that emptiness isn't loss, it's purification. Venus in Libra doesn't take people from you. It tears away masks. It leaves you face to face with naked truth. No spiritual makeup, no emotional filters. And then something changes forever. You learn to prefer silence over sweet lies. Solitude over company that asks you to betray yourself. Truth over any kind of approval. You understand that being liked was not always love. It was often just a polished form of emotional slavery. After all the inner storms, after the exhaustion that broke you inside, after every mask that fell, something new begins to emerge. It doesn't arrive with noise or fire. It comes with a stillness so deep it no longer needs explanation. That stillness is your rebirth. Venus in Libra, in her purest form, never wanted you to be weak. She wanted you to be precise, for your heart to be refined, not naive. Every confrontation, every bitter truth, every emotional fall in this process wasn't punishment. It was sculpting. Every crack in your soul carved out the most real version of you. What remains now is not the mask of balance, but balance in its truest form, the serenity that rises after you've bled for the truth. The beauty you now radiate is no longer cosmetic. It's earned. It doesn't come from pretending to be perfect, but from moving through imperfection without giving up. You've understood that softness is not weakness. It's power that learned how to breathe. It's strength that knows how to hold its own fire without extinguishing it. Your empathy no longer spills, it sharpens. Your compassion no longer confuses itself with submission, it now has boundaries and teeth. Your love no longer begs, it chooses. That's the real lesson of Venus in Libra. Balance not for appearance, but as spiritual art. Grace with firmness, kindness with limits, love with awareness. You've discovered that peace is not perpetual comfort, it's radical presence. Sometimes it roars, sometimes it weeps, sometimes it disappears, but it's always truth. And that's what makes it divine. Real beauty is not born from the effort to please, but from the courage to be honest. It's the elegance that remains after chaos, the calm that emerges when you no longer need to prove anything. That's the fruit of your transformation. You didn't break. You became solid from the inside out. You no longer need everything to look beautiful in order to feel at peace. And now, your energy shifts. Your presence becomes magnetic, not because of what you do, but because of what you embody. Your aura vibrates from a quiet certainty, a strength that doesn't impose, but cannot be ignored. You are softer, yes, but unreachable to the false. Open, but not available to just anyone. That's the point where love becomes mastery. You no longer choose from fear, you choose from clarity. You no longer chase connection, you attract it. You no longer crave approval, you radiate it. You no longer confuse calm with silence, because now you define peace on your own terms. Libra's energy, which once pushed you to hold empty harmonies, now becomes your ally. It guides you toward relationships, habits, and thoughts that match your level. Because you've realized that tenderness and strength are not opposites, they're the same vibration expressed with wisdom. You're not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you were before you had to justify yourself. The dark exposed the lies. Now the light dresses you in elegant truth. Love that doesn't need a disguise. Grace that doesn't need approval. Power that doesn't need to dominate. The soft power that emerges after so much destruction is the only one that doesn't fade, because it's made of authenticity. And when you arrive here, you finally understand Venus's most secret teaching. Beauty isn't in what you look at. It's in what you become when you stop hiding behind it. If you've made it this far, thank you for holding this frequency with me. If something inside you resonated, subscribe and let's walk this path of awareness together. Your support is the light that keeps this voice alive. I'll read you in the comments, share your experience, your sign, or how this energy moved within you. Until next time, care for your spirit, honor your truth, and keep your soul awake.